actually, would you mind?
You've got two right here.
Yeah, that's good, okay, thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rick, alcoholic. Don't want to get, I got a loud mouth, so I don't want to be too close to that mic. Yeah, I'm Rick, alcoholic, and I want to thank the committee for asking me to be here. I want to thank all of you for being here today. It's always great to be here on Sunday morning. And I want to congratulate the young lady that got the, yeah, that was awesome. And I would have to say that generally speaking, I speak a lot of these on Sunday morning and do a lot of those sobriety countdowns, and I'd have to say this is probably the soberest conference I've ever been to. No doubt. Nobody ever wins with 3 weeks. Ever. I think that's awesome. But usually there's somebody that was like drunk last night, you know, or 2 days ago. So that is awesome. And the amount of sobriety and the people that stood up is definitely a testament to the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous on a beautiful Sunday morning, April 27th of 1980. 1980. And with the exception of one little 7-year slip, I've been sober the whole time. But it's through God's unfailing compassion that I woke up on the morning of November 9th, 2000, with a desire to live. And I don't know about getting sober, but I wanted to live. I was dying. The only reason that I know it was November 9th is because my daughter's birthday is November 8th. And I was in the exact same spot on the garage floor on November 9th that I had spoken to her on her birthday the day before. So I had been in that spot on the garage floor for 24 hours when I came to that morning. And fortunately, because I had been in Alcoholics Anonymous before, those people that loved me, they literally came and kicked the door in and they took me straight to a nut house and had me committed. And I was in an institution. Well, this could be a long day. Yeah. I got treated for alcoholism by the Oklahoma Department of Corrections on a psych ward. And they know how to treat drunks. They lock them up. And that's how you get sober. They just lock you up. And unfortunately for me, I was on a psych ward. So I wasn't in the general lockdown. And you know, when I was, there seems to be a theme, and that is, you know, I was sober for 13 years, and then one night, I was out entertaining clients, and this waitress looked at me and said, "Would you like a warm buttery nipple?" And I said, "Absolutely. Can I have 2?" Now, that was 13 years in the program, and I will tell you that I have had the very best that Alcoholics Anonymous has to offer. Anybody ever heard of Joe and Charlie? Yeah, well, Joe was my sponsor and my best friend for 34 years. And I hung with Chuck, and with my relationship with them, I knew of all the heroes. And I got to spend large amounts of time with everybody that we've talked about this week, all the heroes, Chuck and Johnny and Clancy, and they just go on and on and on. So I have literally had the very best that Alcoholics Anonymous has to offer. And I can tell you that the program, human power will not keep you sober. It will not keep you sober. Even if you have the very best that Alcoholics Anonymous has to offer. Okay? No human power. And that seems to be the thing. The program is a program of promise. And I always like to talk about the promises, right? And we make a lot of promises in this program. And one promise that is made on page 13 is that if an alcoholic fails to enlarge on his spiritual condition through work and self-sacrifice for others, he will not survive the certain low spots, and he will drink again. That's a promise. And I'm here to tell you, it's a real promise. Because when that lady asked me about that nipple, I had no idea how far out in the weeds I was. I had no idea how far out in the weeds I was. And when I took that drink, I had no idea that it would be 7 years. I was drunk every day, every single day. Okay, I had a craving jump on me like a gorilla. I was drunk for every day until they hauled me to that nut house. So my allergy to alcoholism had just been waiting for me to get back in the game. And trust me, it was 13 years worse. When I took that drink, I had no idea it was going to reach out and grab a hold of me. And I will just say this. If you're here today, this is the easier, softer way. And if you are thinking about drinking, I can make it very simple for you. Because my experience is this. The first time I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I beat a 15-year penitentiary sentence. It was court ordered for psychiatric evaluation and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I may mention. The second time around, made that look like kid stuff, which it was. Kid stuff. So that's what I got to say about that, right? Because whatever it was that drove me in here the first time, if I walk out, I will promise you, it has to be worse to drive you back in the second time. Because for 7 years I was walking around out there, and there were times I think, is it time, my wife would say, should we go back to AA? And I would say, it's not bad enough, right? And so how bad does bad have to be before bad is bad enough? How bad does bad have to be before bad is bad enough? Well, I found out. And when they hauled me into that nut house, I couldn't go to the mailbox without a weapon. Okay, so I was in bad shape. And when they hauled me in that nut house, they had this one little room you could smoke in. Now, I had a friend when I went to high school, and he was one of the craziest people that I ever knew. And his name was Tim. And Tim, you know, I mean, I'd kind of lost track of him. He had locked his mother down in a tornado shelter and stuck a garden hose and turned it on. And her neighbors literally saved her just before she drowned. He did 2 years in the penitentiary for that. The next time I heard of Tim, they had arrested him. He was running naked down the runway at Tulsa International Airport. And so I'm in this nut house on this psych ward in this little room, and I'm shaking like a beagle passing a peach seed. And somebody walked in there and put a blood pressure cuff on my arm. And when I looked up, damn if it wasn't my buddy Tim. A tech on that ward, a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm going to tell you, there's not one person, not a Clancy, not a Joe, not a Chuck, not a nobody that could have made more of an impression on me. Nobody. He was my Ebby. He did not have to say anything. I'm telling you, if Tim could get sober, anyone on the face of this planet can get sober, including me. I'm telling you, there's no way that Tim could get sober. And the fact that he was there was the first miracle. It was, I wasn't even sure if I thought maybe I had gone, I thought I had lost it. I thought I was seeing something. And he picked me up and he hugged me. And he said, Rick, I'm so glad to see you. And I said, I'm so glad to see you too, Tim. And you know, and everybody on this ward, I mean, this place was, everybody in there was in the system, you know, was on paper. We're either going to the joint or we're coming out of the joint. So it was intense. And my roommate, Tony, had just got out of the pen for 7 years armed robbery. And one day, a couple of days after I saw Tim, I had gone psychotic. And I was losing it. And Tim and Tony, the armed robbery guy, came in and they kind of scooped me up. I know. They did not know what to do with me. I was a load. And Tim reached over and grabbed a Bible off of a shelf. I know that he had no idea what he was doing. But he read something out of that Bible, and it went like this. I waited patiently on the Lord, and he inclined to me, and he heard my cry for help. And he lifted me out of a horrible pit, out of the mire clay, and he set my feet on a rock and put a new song in my mouth. Don't withhold your tender mercies, O Lord. Your loving and kindness and your faithfulness will preserve me forever. Tarry not, make haste, and help me. And boom, boom, my life changed right there in an instant. Okay, we weren't kneeling, we weren't praying. Okay, you're talking about 3 convicted felons standing straight up in a nut house, hanging on. The only thing that was there was everything. And the room filled with a presence that pulsed. And I felt it, and it radiated, and it got stronger and stronger, and the hair on my arms was standing up, and Tim put his hair on his arms was standing up. My life changed in the blink of an eye. And I knew that somehow, some way, those one-way big old doors that only go one way in, somehow they were going to open those things up and let me out. And I never had to come back here if I didn't want to. I knew that. And I was I was so happy I mopped the floor for them. And they had to get me to stop to go to bed. And 24 years have gone by since that night. And I'm telling you, there's not a day when I don't wake up and I want to acquaint myself with whatever was in that room. Whatever that was in that room that night, I want some more of that. I want some more of that. And so I have tried the very best that I could, a little here and a little there, but I've tried the very best I could to make that contact with that presence every day. And it's what's brought me here today. In my last conversation with Joe, those guys, hang on here. Those guys traveled the world doing Alcoholics Anonymous. Joe was a global ambassador for Alcoholics Anonymous. He used to say that if he had been more lucky, if he hadn't have dropped, he might have been a college graduate if he had ever made it to high school. And he ended up owning a multi-million-dollar corporation that did global business around the world. I ran the company for him, and he was a global member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Traveled, met the Pope, met the Queen. And in our last conversation, I told him that I would never forget what those guys have done for me, and that I will do whatever it takes to bring it when I have a chance to. Okay? That I'm going to try and bring everything that they gave me. And just like the Apostle Paul, right? I am here to try and share with you that which I have been given, right? That which I have received. And I have received plenty. Plenty. Not a lot of people get to come back to Alcoholics Anonymous. And not a lot of people get to come back and stay like I have been able to stay. And, when time is short, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I want to make a point about what Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. But I will tell a couple of drunk stories. I need to. And, I'm a real alcoholic. I mean, when I take a drink, it's on. Your guess is as good as mine as what's going to happen next. I was a musician, guitar player. I'm a one-man party looking for a place to happen. And like the band I was in, we would close the bar down and we're out drinking flaming armadillos. Flaming armadillos. So, if you're lighting your drinks on fire, it's not social drinking. If you have more than one of those, definitely not social drinking. And if you have the bar lined up that looks like a birthday cake, you got an issue. And so we were having a night of conviviality, of fun, and we just played a great gig, and everything was great. And the next thing you know, all I could hear was this dog barking. And I don't have a dog. And when I woke up, it was a police canine. And I had gone home and I had taken off my clothes and just gone to sleep on the couch. But apparently I wasn't in my house. That's why the dog was there. And so that's where the 15 years started. Right? That's first degree burglary. When you do that in the middle of the night, break in somebody's house, that's a real crime, isn't it? That's a real crime. I mean, they put people in prison for that. And so that's what I was facing. And, you know, when I start drinking, you know, like, I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I start off drinking. It's Thursday night. We're in my apartment in Tulsa. And on Sunday morning, I come to in Roswell, New Mexico with a one-legged woman. I was looking for my car keys. She was looking for her leg. Trying to get away from each other. And I'm wondering, how the heck did I get to Roswell, New Mexico? I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Thursday. Think about that. I drove there. And apparently had a couple of days to spare and partied down in the city until I met the lady. So that's what I'm talking about. When I start to drink, it could be fun. It could be we have the time of our life. Or it could be one-legged ladies and police canines. Your guess is as good as mine. No telling. No telling. And that's a bad spot to be in if you really don't know what's going to happen. You know, like we all go to work every day. You know, Mondays, we're all going to go to work. You go to work, hey, go to work. Everybody's, you know, we all park in the same spot. I know what you drive, they know what I drive. We're all here, and, you know, and then one morning, Rick shows up walking. And they're like, well, where's your car, Rick? Oh, well, I don't know. And they said, well, what do you mean I don't know? Well, I mean, I don't know where my car is. Well, where was the last time you, I don't know. I don't know. And you know, I went, my first AA meeting, first closed AA meeting, these two guys, Joe, my sponsor, and another guy who was the president of Alcoholics Anonymous, they took me into a private room and gave me a private session. And they explained the doctor's opinion to me about the allergy to alcohol and the obsession of the mind. Right? And they sat and they talked to me and they said, Rick, are you allergic to anything? And I said, yes. I'm allergic to Tide detergent soap. When I moved out of the house and I started washing my clothes, I started breaking out in these red spots everywhere. And I went to a doctor and he said, you know, if you get rid of that Tide, quit that Tide, maybe those spots will go away. And you know what? When I walked out of that doctor's office, I'm going to tell you, I quit that Tide on the spot. It was no taper, no treatment. I mean, it's like right now, done. No more. And 45 years later, I can promise you, okay, not one time ever have I woke up like in the middle of the night and gone peep through the blinds and look to see if who's outside, and then see if I can sneak a load and not get those spots. Doesn't happen. So if that, and you know, the thing is, I could have been a Tide oil or whatever. But I mean, I quit, just like that. But alcohol, not that way. And so they said, well, that's exactly what we're talking about. Allergy, it's totally different. When we take a drink, something happens, and something happens. And I understood that perfectly, trust me. I understood that perfectly. They didn't need to elaborate. They really didn't need to elaborate. And so then they took me into the main room. And there was one guy in there, a Marine. I didn't like him right away. He was just talking about being a Marine. Marines do this, Marines do that, blah, 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 going on. And then I didn't really care. I didn't really understand what it had to do with anything. But as it came around, the Marine said, when I was drinking, I lost a car. And I said, I lost a car too. I did too. I lost it. I mean, just lost it. And they were like, okay, Rick, sit down. Sit down. And I promise, after about 16 or 17 years, I quit looking for the car. It's gone. Don't know where it is. So I come to Alcoholics Anonymous after Tim, and my wife was in the program. She went out and got drunk, and the next thing you know, we're split. We're split. So when they finally let me out of that nut house, I went back to a home that I had to break in my own house. The only reason I could go home is because my wife went into DTs while I was on a pass, and I took her to the hospital. So while she was locked up, I escaped from my hospital. And I went home and broke in and changed the locks on her. Welcome home, baby. And I thought that she would get out of her nut house, and then we would just get together and it'd just be AA and love. But it didn't work out that way. And she left me. And so now, I just got out of the nut house. My career's in flames. Everything that I've been working on for the last 20 years is up for grabs. My wife is gone. She moved in some apartment where she met somebody that in her nut house. Now she's living over here. And I got hot checks all over town, and I am in real trouble. And I'm coming back to Alcoholics Anonymous, and my second marriage is going down in flames. I have no career, nothing, except that experience that I had in that nut house. And so I started back in Alcoholics Anonymous alone. And that's when I really learned the meaning of release with love, turning people over to God. The greatest thing that I can do for anyone is to turn them over to God, because I'm not worried about them anymore. And it's God's business. And that's literally the best thing that I can do for anyone. There's the greatest gift that I can give to anyone. So I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, and like I said, the program's full of promises. I don't even know how much time, where am I at here? Am I almost done? Yeah, can you hear me? This way? Okay. Do I need to start over? All right. So I want to get to the meat of it because I really don't know how much time I've got, and 2 minutes? 4 minutes? Okay, well then good. Let's wrap it up. 20 minutes. Okay, good. Because there was a couple of things. I was like, what? Okay. I don't ever give the same talk anyway, so that's fine. It's not like I got a canned talk and I'm running behind schedule here. But what I will say is that Alcoholics Anonymous, when I was born Catholic, we lived in a Baptist neighborhood. We were the only Catholics in sight. And that's not good. Then my parents got divorced and they moved out to Arizona, and the Mormons got us. And then I got Nazarenes and Holy Rollers and all kinds of so I literally, by the time I was about 16 years old, I was thoroughly indoctrinated in about 5 different flavors of Christian, right? I've been Catholic, Mormon, Baptist, Holy Roller, New Ager, all of those. And I had never heard the expression, God as you understand him. Okay, they don't teach that at the Baptist church. They do not teach that. Now, maybe they do, or maybe I missed it, but that's not the message I got at the Mormon ward. And yeah, it was always, this is what we believe. And you believe that, you're one of us. You don't, you're not. And my problem is I was always not. I loved the church, I loved the fellowship, I loved the donuts, I loved everything. I loved the feeling and how I loved that spiritual, my grandma would take, I loved it. But there was always a couple of things that I couldn't get. Right? I just couldn't say, I believe that. So I wasn't one of them. I was on the outside. And I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you people said, no, we don't do that here. You know, if you can find something you can believe in that's bigger than you, go for it. We need you to believe in something. You've got to believe in something that's bigger than you, but we really don't care what it is. We really don't care what it is. And then I started in on the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and it opened it up to me, a God of my own understanding. Right? And I'm telling you, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is a deep spiritual program. Deep spiritual program. And some of the ideas that are contained in the big book are so heavy, it's unbelievable. For instance, and I love this, that our book says that deep down inside every man, woman, child is the fundamental idea of God. In some form or another, it is there, right? It's just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. But the thing that's important to me is the fundamental idea. See, all things begin with an idea. They don't begin material. They don't start out already made. They start out as an idea. All things start out as an idea. And so for a long time, I believed that what they were talking about was that because Alcoholics Anonymous has this God as you understand him thing, that I'm going to be able to find a concept of God that I can go with. That's it. So I'm going to have Rick's idea of God. And that's true. There's truth to that, but that's not what they're talking about, right? The fundamental idea is not Rick's idea of God. It's God's idea of Rick. Right? I used to go to Joe and when I asked him, we did a 6 and 7 step, and people talk about defects of character, and, you know, do you want them, do you not want them, do you want them, let them go, do you not want to let them go? Joe, I'm from the school that keeps it really simple. And it goes like this. Joe used to say, Rick, you have one character. It's all defective. And we call it Rick. Boom. So you can mess around with being tardy and late and insecure. You can do all that all day long, but you would never get rid of those defects until you get rid of Rick. That's the defective character. Ouch, right? How do you do that? How does Rick get rid of Rick? Okay, can't happen. Impossible. But that's what has to happen. Rick is a persona. Rick, right? A persona, like you see those masks of those Greek actors, and one's sad, one's happy, one's not. Personas. Rick can be anything he wants to be. Rick has been a printer. Rick has been a musician. Rick has graduated seminary, first in his class, and was an instructor in the seminary and has had 2 churches. Rick can do a lot of things, but Rick is a reflection of something, of the being that I am. The fundamental idea is that there is a being, I am. And that I am of me is pure spirit. And it precedes any physicality, is subject to no physicality or indictments, conditions, descriptions, prognoses, diagnosis. It precedes them. It trumps them. You cannot have a precedent. You cannot have an antecedent without a precedent. Right? God is spirit. And that spirit is the fundamental idea from which my life springs forth. And all I have to do is take a pulse. A pulse is a vital sign, vital proof of life. And I believe God is life. I don't believe God is living. I believe God is life itself. And all I have to do to know how close God is take my pulse. Now, pulse is a physical thing. And as I still myself and I start to become aware of that pulse, is it the pulse that creates the awareness, or the awareness that creates the pulse? My relationship with God is like a coffee pot, right? You take what you know, when you make coffee, you take that cool, clear water. You know, if you know water, no life. And you pour that water in, and then it goes through that machine, and when it comes out, it's hot and black. It doesn't look like anything that went in. But all that the coffee is water, and you can't separate the coffee from the water. So what made the coffee was the ingredients in the filter. And if I want that pot to have in it what went in, then I have to take out the filter and dump it and let the clean water run all the way through. And that's what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, right? The ability to empty that filter and to allow that clean water to run through. And the good news about the program is it's not a forever thing. There's no way I could do this forever. It's not a one and done. It's a right now. I can do it now. I can't do it forever, but I can do it for now. And if I can do it now, then I can do it forever. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous has saved my life. I mentioned the churches, so the seminary, and that opportunity has given me the chance to literally be with people at the greatest moments of their life and the very worst moments of their life. And there's no way that I am that character. There's no way that I can do that. But with God, all things are possible. And God has allowed me to do things that when I'm standing there giving a sermon on Sunday morning, my wife and I were the only ones that knew about the one-legged lady in Roswell. Where is God? Is God afar? Out beyond the furthest star? No, God is not far. God is near. God is nearer than my knees. God is nearer than my fear. And when I call him, he will heed, for he is in the midst of me. And in the valley of the night, I will have an inward light. And when the way is uncertain he will hold my hand in his. In the valley of the night, I will have an inner light. He is faith. I will not fear. He is love, and I will hear, for he is in the midst of me. Need I even call it all? Knows he not each sparrow's fall? Lord Emmanuel, thou art ever present in my heart. And no matter how far I will roam, in your heart I am at home, for thou art in the midst of me. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, a God of my very understanding. 30-something years ago, I was divorced. I'd met my first wife in Alcoholics Anonymous. I met my second wife in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that second one, Suzanne, we've been together 36 years. She's my best friend, my love, my partner. I think we've been together before. And that's one of the things that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. When my daughter, our daughter got married, I got to walk her down the aisle, then I got to stand up and do the ceremony. When my father passed away, I got to stand up and talk for him. When my sponsor Joe passed away, I got to stand up and talk for him. I have 2 grandsons that have never seen Papa drunk. And I have a host of friends from coast to coast. And as a matter of fact, this morning, a guy that I used to sponsor the first time, Thomas Y. in Fairfax, Virginia, is celebrating 41 years today. And I called him, and I'm so happy. And I want to thank you all for having me here today. Thank you so much. God bless you.